Hello.
Hi.
We are back, guys. And we are going to be doing now our book club. And I think that's going to be the only thing we're doing for a little bit, right? Right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
right, Hen?
A little bit.
So
You have more
I'm Jeanette, that's Hen.
Yeah.
And we are going to be doing the book club. And today we are going to be reading the beautiful visions of the complete visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. She was beatified, I can never pronounce that, beatified in 2004 by John Paul II. So we know that she is approved by the Catholic Church. So her visions are amazing so far. So good. If you guys didn't see the one before this one, which is the conception of Mary through Anne, Saint Anne, then you need to watch it next because it was
It's
so
like
good.
it's like getting a little glimpse into the Gospels, like if you're comfortable with visionaries, because it gives you just a little bit more than we see in the Gospels, and brings, for me, the visions were a little bit tough, but it brings it to life. So
Yes, yes.
anyway, okay.
And anything is possible with God. So all these things about the spiritual thing or the holy thing, they call it, the holy thing that comes only from the Holy Spirit. And yeah, it's happening everywhere here, and I love it.
And he comes to every single person in our dreams and our things, so it is very possible that it is real.
Oh, yes.
If not, she has very good intuition and helps bring it to life. So look at it either way. Okay.
Yes. So today we're going to be reading Symbols of the Mystery of the Immaculate Conception. I saw the whole earth parched and dried up. I saw Elias and two servants climbing up Mount Carmel. They first crossed a high ridge, then went up steps cut in the rock to a terrace. From this terrace, they ascended by similar steps to a level place from which arose a hill. The hill contained a cave, and up this Elias mounted alone. He left his servants on the borders of the level place, that they might look down upon the Sea of Galilee. Its waters were dried up, and its bed lay full of holes, mud, and putrefied carcasses. Putrefied carcasses. Elias sat down, his head resting upon his knees, covered himself with his mantle, and prayed earnestly to God. 7 times did he call to his servants as to whether no cloud out of the sea had yet arisen. At last I saw in the middle of the sea, a white vapor, out of which came a little black cloud. In the later was a small shining figure, which rising on high gradually increased in size. As the cloud rose, Elias perceived it is in it the figure of a radiant virgin. Her head was surrounded by rays. Her arms were outstretched in the form of a cross, one hand grasping a victor's wreath, and her long garments fell as a bound below her feet. She appeared to be hovering over Palestine. In this vision, Elias learned 4 mysteries related to the Blessed Virgin. One was that she would come in the 7th age, and another was the family to which she should belong. He also saw on one shore of the sea a low spreading tree, and on the other a very lofty one, whose summit drooped over upon the lower one. I saw the cloud break up and fall in fleecy vapors upon certain holy places and upon the abodes of certain pious people who were in prayer. These vapors were bordered by rainbow edges, and in them was the blessing, like a pearl in its shell. I was told that this, though typical, was a true representation of how the preparation for the coming of the Blessed Virgin would develop from those various blessed points. Soon after the visions, Elias enlarged the cave in which he was accustomed to pray. He made new regulations for the prophet children, of whom that time some in that cave constantly supplicated for the coming of Mary and honored her advent. 10.
Elijah said by his prayer called upon the clouds, and he directed them according to interior enlightenment. Otherwise, a sudden and destructive rain gust might have resulted from them. At first, I saw these clouds dropping dew, settling in white plains, forming eddies with rainbow-colored edges, and finally dissolving in drops. I recognized some connection between them and the manna in the desert, which in the morning lay brittle and thick like a skin upon the ground. It could be gathered in rolls. I saw the vapors floating along the Jordan. They did not fall in places indiscriminately, but only here and there at Salem, for instance, where John baptized at a later period, and at the spot where subsequently his pool of baptism stood. I asked for the significance of the colored edges, and it was explained to me by a certain shell of the sea, which too has shining colored margins. The shell under the sun's rays absorbs the light, reflects its colors at the edges, thus purifying the ray, as it were, until in its own center the pure white pearl is formed. I cannot express it, but I understood that dew and the rain following it did more than what is commonly signified by a watering of the earth. I received the clear assurance that without this dew, Mary's advent would have been delayed 100 years longer. Wow. While through that watering and the blessing of the earth, the different families living on its produce were quickened and enlivened. Thus their flesh received a new blessing, by which it became more purified and ennobled by propagation. The vision of the pearl in its shell bore reference to Jesus and Mary. The drought that I saw was not confined to the earth alone. There was also a great doubt, a great sterility among men, but the spray of fructifying dew descended from generation to generation down to the flesh of Mary. I cannot express it. At times there appeared upon the colored edges of the cloud one or several pearls, and upon these a human figure, breathing forth something spirit-like, which again seemed to amalgamate in others. I don't know what that word means. Let me pause this and look it up real quick. I'm sorry. It means combine or unite a form, one organization or structure. So that makes sense. I also saw that by the great mercy of God, the pious heathens of that age knew that the Messiah would be born of a virgin in Judea. This knowledge was imparted to the star worshippers of Chaldea by the appearance of a vision either in a star or in the heavens. they prophesied concerning it. I saw the same tidings of salvation proclaimed in Egypt. Elias was commanded by God to bring together into Judea several pious families scattered to the north, east, and south. He sought for 3 prophet scholars suited to the mission, and he implored a sign by God by which he might recognize them, for it was a distant and very hazardous undertaking. One went north, the second east, and the third south. This last route led to Egypt, where Israelites could not enter without risk. I saw the third messenger journeying along the road, subsequently traversed by the Holy Family, and also at Heliopolis. He came at last to a great pagan temple surrounded by numerous buildings and situated into a wide plain. A live bull was worshipped in this temple, and in it were also the image of a bull and other idols. Deformed children were sacrificed to the animal. As the prophet was past the temple, he was seized and led before the priests. Fortunately for him, they were exceedingly inquisitive, else perhaps they would have murdered him at once. They questioned him as to whence he came. He answered fearlessly, telling them that a virgin would be born, from whom should proceed the salvation of the world. Then would all their idols be shattered. They were amazed and impressed by what they heard and allowed him to go on his way. But they afterward took counsel together and resolved to make the image of a virgin. When it was finished, they placed it high in the center of the temple roof and in a position as if in the act of floating down. Wow. The virgin's headdress was like that of so many of the other idols, half woman, half lion, and were in the temple. The upper part of the arms was close to the body, the forearms extended as if warding off something. Feathers radiated from both upper and lower arms, 2 clasping together like crests or combs. Similar feathers ran down the sides and middle of the body to the tiny feet. The Egyptians honored this image and offered sacrifice to it, that thereby the virgin might not destroy their god Apis and their other idols. But they still continued in their usual abominations. The only change the prophet's communication wrought was that they henceforth invoked the image of the virgin and honored it according to the various interpretations they put upon his words. I saw much of the history of Tobias and the marriage brought about by the angel between young Tobias with Sarah. The latter was a type of Saint Anne. The old Tobias represented the race of pious Jews that yearned after the Messiah. His blindness signified that he was to be the father of no more children, and that he should devote himself entirely to meditation and prayer. His quarrelsome wife was an image of the vain and troublesome ceremonies of the Pharisaical doctors of the law. The swallow, a messenger of spring, heralded the coming salvation. Tobias's blindness chiefly betokened the faithful, though obscure, waiting and longing for salvation and the ignorance of whence it should come. The angel had indeed spoken truly when he said that he was Azarias, the son of Ananias, for Ananias. For
Ananias?
Ananias, yeah, maybe that, Ananias. Ananias, for this word signifies This angel was the guide of the races, the protector and administrator of the blessing, even unto the conception of the Blessed Virgin. In the prayer offered together by young Tobias and Sarah, and which I saw carried by angels to the throne of God, where it was favorably received, I recognized the supplications of the pious Israelites and the daughters of Sion for the coming of the Savior. Also, the simultaneous prayers of Joachim and Anne for the child promised to them. The blindness of Tobias and the reproaches of his wife signified also the contempt shown to Joachim and the sightings of his offerings. The 7 murdered husbands of Sarah represented those among the ancestors of Mary, wow, who had placed obstacles to her coming and consequently to the salvation of man. Wow, wow, wow. They likewise denoted the suitors dismissed by Anne before her marriage with Joachim. And the reproaches of Sarah's maid signified the derision of pagans, of unbelievers, and of godless Jews upon the delay in the coming of the long-looked-for Messiah. Such impious taunts drove the pious to still more earnest prayer. It was also, and very particularly, a symbol of the scorn that Anne endured from her maid, at which, being confused, she had recourse to prayer with so great earnestness that she was heard. The fish about to devour the young Tobias typified the prolonged sterility of Anne. Wow. But the removal of its heart, liver, and gall denoted good works and mortification. The little kid brought home by Tobias's wife as the wages of her work was really a stolen one that the people had given to her cheap. Tobias knew that the people as well as the whole transaction, and that was the reason that they despised him. It bore also some signification to the relations that existed between the pious Jews and the Essenians on the one hand, and the Pharisees and merely ceremonious Jews on the other. Also, the scorn felt by the latter for the former, but what that signification was, I cannot now recall. The gall with which the blind Tobias was restored to light symbolized the suffering and bitterness by which the elect among the Jews arrived at knowledge of salvation and attained to a participation in the same. It signified the entrance of light into darkness. Jesus, upon his bitter passion from his very birth. Oops, wait a minute. Did that skip a page? Hold on. It went to 4. Good. Oh no, so that was the end. It seemed like it was saying a little bit more. It signified the entrance of light into darkness, Jesus entering upon his bitter passion from his very birth. Wow, this was extraordinarily powerful.
Tobias, I didn't really remember the story of Tobias very well, even though I did the Bible in a year already once, and I remember reading the Bible before that, but so I had to look it up real quick. And it's one of the books in the in our Catholic Bible that's not in the Protestant Bible. So it's one of those books, because I looked it in my commentary Bible that I love, because it has the best commentaries ever.
That Protestant?
But this is not a Catholic Bible, because I don't have a Catholic Bible with commentary. I can't find one for some reason. I have the Adventure Bible.
I found them, but there's not that much good.
Yeah, because I wanted to
hear a little bit more about
But this is
the
why,
bias.
the sacred, commentary on the sacred art, that's why on the sacred gospel, on the sacred scripture, I put that in each day in the reading, but they haven't done all the books yet. But it is phenomenal. It's Catholic theologians. Anyway, go ahead. You were saying.
So I was looking in the Bible to find it, so maybe there's a little something on Tobias.
Well, can I just say this?
Yes.
I don't remember a lot, but it has personal meaning to me, which is too personal. I can't get into, but
Well, what about the blinding of the eyes?
about what?
Why was he blinded in the eyes? I think it was because of
Well, I know the symbol of it. I don't remember like all of that. Like we would have to really look a little bit deeper, but for me, it has personal significance. But I will say this, as I was reading through this, you know that we take the Bible stories and we project them onto other people's lives and our own lives and people that we love and care about. So when I saw that Tobias was with this woman who killed 7 of her husbands, to me meant she was a very vindictive woman. Well, if you know and care about someone and you know they're with someone who is vindictive and you can feel it around them, you can't figure it out, but you can feel it around them, it scares you. Because just like that movie we saw yesterday, evil is around us all the time. So that particular book, I'm only coming from personal experience. I'm not going to tell you a lot about the Bible story because I projected my own stuff onto it. I don't know where my memory of that part, because it was a while ago that I studied Tobias, was about 10 years ago. So I've lost some of the details, but nevertheless, I had the sense that that this evil woman was very vindictive and he was more close to God. And then the cure, I guess she got the demons out of her by the end. So it was good. But I see here we have a little bit of a thing that you sent. The book of, okay, here, this is
this is what's in the Adventure Bible by Jeff Cavins that I have. I really like it. It doesn't have a lot of commentary, but it does have every now and then a little bit on the bottom, and this is what it has.
Okay. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
Sure, go ahead and read it. Yeah.
Okay. The books of Tobit, because that's the book it's in, Tobias and Tobit, Judith and Esther. These 3 books appear together in the Greek Bible, usually after the historical books. The complete Aramaic original of Tobit and the Hebrew of Judith have not survived, and neither book was included in the Jewish canon at the end of the 1st century AD. Existing as they did in the Greek Bible, they would have been used and recognized as scripture by the first Christians. The Greek additions to Esther were probably written 2 centuries after the Hebrew text. They were composed of Egypt, and they were exhibited a strictly Jewish doctrine. All 3 books have a literary form, somewhat strange to the Western mind. I saw it very symbolically, so it wasn't that strange to me. They are in effect, and Jewish are more symbolic, so that's probably why. They are in effect religious tales with the appearance of a historical narrative. They may have a historical basis, but the persons, places, events, and dates are woven into the narrative in such a way as to have little resemblance of the actual historical record as we know it from other sources. It would seem, therefore, that the writers are intending not to write history as we understand that term, but to use historical material to impart a religious message. The book of Tobit, the book of Tobias, the author relates The story of a family living among a pagan people, yet trusting fully in God in spite of difficulties. Belief in one God is stressed. Marriage between Jews is likewise emphasized, and angels figure prominently in the narrative. The book has much to say, too, about the need for good works. It was written that after the exile at some point during the Persian period, though the story may be a good deal older than that, it shows signs of the dependence on earlier writings, such as the story of Ahikar, a 6th century work from Babylon. It also bears a likeness to Genesis in certain points, to its last injunctions to the family, the important role of angels, the son's search for a wife, and the care given to the burial of the dead. It is interesting to note that the fragments of the Hebrew and Aramaic texts have been found at Qumran, which favor the longer texts of Codex Sinaiticus and the Old Latin and Vulgate. See, I want to stop this real quick and go to USCCB and get the book of Tobias. So let's stop this first.
Well, real quick before you do that, I had the question of why he was blind and how he became blind and what happened. If you want to look on 9, Tobit 9.
Tobit 9, okay.
So Tobit 1:9.
Tobit 1:9, okay.
1:9, it says, on the same night after I, Tobit, returned from burying the dead, I went into my courtyard and slept by the wall of the courtyard, and my face was uncovered because of the heat. I did not know that there were sparrows on the wall, and their fresh droppings fell into my open eyes, and white films formed on my eyes. I went to physicians to be healed, but the more they treated me with ointments, the more my vision was obscured by the white films until I became completely blind. For 4 years, I remained unable to see. All my kindred were sorry for me, and Ahikar took care of me for 2 years until he went to Blissemus. So yeah, that's what happened. That's how he got his eyes.
Where are you reading that from? Jeff Caven's Bible?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and you were reading Tobias 9? 1:9?
Tobias 1:9. Yeah.
Well, look here, it says something different on USCCB. That just goes to show
That's weird.
how different Bibles are. Just like Arnie in class, we just finished up a study, and Arnie was saying that his Bible didn't have certain things, and then
Oh no, I'm sorry, 2. It was 2.
oh, okay.
It was 2. It was 2 because Jeff Caven's Bible, sometimes his numbers are so big that you.
Okay, so 2:9.
Yeah. It was
Oh,
2.
okay. Well, I feel better then, because that was really different.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
2:9.
Tobit's blindness.
Yeah.
That same night I washed, went into the courtroom where I lay down, sleep the wall because of the heat of my face. I didn't know that sparrows were perched above me, their warm droppings.
I was wondering how he was blind, but now I know. Okay.
Yeah, so it was from the bird droppings.
Okay.
Which
Well,
makes
see, this kind of shows you, if you guys have questions like this, you can go back and look in the Bible and you can see that it's very close to what she's seeing. That's
which
also
the church did check out. But think about it. The bird droppings of birds are extremely bacterious. So he got a bacteria in there that probably, on a medical sense, they didn't have antibiotics back then. So that right there tells you. So, but it also goes to show you with every earthly thing, there's a spiritual side to it, and that's kind of what happened in that story. So let's first start out, before we talk more about Tobias, let's first look at what we read here, because this was so good. I just, so many things flooded to me. So let's just look at this a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, so she talked about Elias and And I don't know how much came out of the Bible, or some of it is her vision, because I don't remember all of the things of Elias in the Bible. I remember just a tiny bit. So, but I'm assuming is this more her own stuff, like with a little bit from the Bible, like we just read there. So, listening to him talking about, where is it? This must, I don't know if there is already documentation of his having this vision. Look at this, Jeanette, I just called you my daughter's name. Look at this. I wish my daughter would study the Bible. Anyway, maybe someday, but she just doesn't like reading, which disappoints me. Anyway, her head was surrounded by rays. Remember, this is before Mary was ever even thought of. Her arms were outstretched in the form of a cross. Now, it's Jesus that was crucified, but you know, as a mother, when your children are being persecuted by someone or hurt by something in their life, it goes to your very core. So we die on the cross just like our child did if we were married, because it was, you're so connected to your kids, whether it's because it's in the brain or not. I'm not sure. Remember what we learned about the brain thing, how your children's bodies.
Yes, that was so awesome.
Yeah. And it's a real scientific thing. So I don't know if it's because of that, but when your children feel pain, you feel it with them. It's there's an old saying, a mother is only as happy as her most unhappy child, which I find is the truth. So anyway, so when he said this really struck me there with that. But then if you see one hand grasping a victor's wreath, that was, when you think about the wreath of Christmas, and we are Christ makes Christmas, humanity and salvation victorious. The victor's wreath, that's what we hang on our front doors at Christmas, is the victory of Christ. I never thought of that symbol for a wreath, and now I always want a wreath on my door since I just saw this. Which I think I'm allowed. My condo's really weird, that some things they don't say anything about, some things they do. I think the board is just bored. But
so this is Elias in the Old Testament?
Okay.
Is this Elias in the Old Testament?
Yeah, this is Elias in the Old Testament you're talking
Okay,
about.
because I looked up Elias to kind of remember a little bit, and it says it's talking about Elias and Elijah and Elisha. So that's nothing to do with this Elias. So I need to look up Elias in the Old Testament.
Yes, it is.
Because it says Elias.
Well, if I remember right, and I could be wrong here, but isn't Elias, okay, it says this, the name title Elias is not always synonymous with Elijah. I thought Elias was his, what do they say, predecessor, the person that comes after or before him. You know what I mean? Weren't they like good friends? The two.
Elias. So Elias saw this.
Yeah. So he was a good friend of Elias. Am I right?
So
They were good friends?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so, because it says Elias.
So visions. He wanted Elijah's power.
Was a Hebrew prophet who reigned with Moses in saving the religion of Yahweh from being corrupted by nature worship of Baal. And then it says that it means Yahweh is my God, the name.
Okay, but can you tell me this? Because you know more about the Bible than I do. Yes, you do, Jeanette. And you know Elias and Elijah.
If you say so.
No, you do. But listen, wasn't it Elias that wanted Elijah's power at the end?
Yes, that's him. That's why I was thinking, yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. You understand. Okay. So Elias had his own visions, is what you're telling us. Does the Bible tell us he had his own visions or no?
The Bible doesn't tell us he had his own vision. I don't know. I got to look it up, but
when you
it looks like he did. It looks like he did, because
it makes sense he did, right?
Yeah, it looks like that now. So that's when that's when we can play a little and kind of get to know the Bible a little better through
and get to
her.
know the person, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Just like that movie, Abraham gave us a real insight, because when they do a movie, even though it's Protestant, they do a character study. I don't like the way that they portrayed the one that they say has ADD or whatever that you like so much in the
Matthew, I love
I don't
it.
like that they portray him so like, I just don't believe that about him. But anyway, I think they got that character study wrong, but I think they have the character study correct in Abraham. And he was a very intuitive man. Well, now we're getting the sense of Elias as, and when you think about it, he was a mystical type like Elijah's, and God spoke to him in visions. It only makes sense if he was going to give the power from Elijah. It only makes
Yes.
sense he had his own visions.
Yes,
Like-
but it's not in the Bible.
Okay, so but look, she gives us a little bit more insight. Look at
Yeah.
this. I mean,
Elijah was the one that had the visions in the Bible, not Elisha.
but
Not
that's what I'm
Elias.
saying. Elias, yeah. But that's what I'm saying, that this book, even if you don't believe her visions, which sometimes I have a hard time about visionary people, I don't, but because the church approved her, I'm more willing to look at this, which I'm really glad I have, because I really understood a little bit more about the tiny bit I remember on the Bible. Because I don't, like I said, even though I started studying the Bible 15 years ago with Jeff Cavins with my first CDs, I still didn't, which I shared in our class, by the way, the group message for everybody, which I forgot to tell people what that was. Anyway, it gives me a lot of insight into the little bit that I know, which is, so either way, even if you didn't believe these visions, you could start to get a sense of these people with it, because even if they aren't true, her intuition is on target. So, okay, so I wanted to say that. Okay, so then it talks about Elias learned 4 mysteries relative to the Blessed Virgin. Can you believe that? And then one, this was such a powerful thing. One was that she would come in the 7th age. I don't.
7th age. There you go. What does that mean? The 7th age.
What does it mean to you? Tell
The
me.
7th age in the Bible. Let me look it up.
Well, isn't there 7 covenants? So I would think it would mean 7 covenants. No?
I don't know.
But there is 7 covenants, right? According to Jeff.
Yeah.
Because some people will say, oh no, there's 8, or there some people will add or take one away. So it's 7. Yeah. So I think that would mean in the 7th age. So
Okay.
would come in the 7th age, and that was the 7th covenant. Okay. And another was the family to which she should belong. And this blew me away as we got into this part. He also saw, because when they started saying that her descendants before her could make a difference in if she came 100 years later. Well, I always, when I've done my ancestry tree, right, I look back, and there's one thing that I'm very I get a little upset about. One of my ancestors, he committed suicide, and he committed suicide, which, a suicide is a very is considered.
Sorry, I found something on the 7th age.
Okay.
It says the outline accounts for 7 ages, just as there are 7 days of the week, with the 7th age being eternal rest after the final judgment and end times. Just as the 7th day of the week is reserved for rest. So I guess it's an important number.
Well, the reason why I think it has to do with the covenants is because of this. All the other covenants were leading up to the main covenant with Christ, right? So, he was born at that time of the 7th covenant. So that's what made me kind of think it had more to do with covenants. But I mean, it could, these numbers are repeated. Number things are embedded. A lot of NDEs I've listened to, it talks about how reality is so closely connected to mathematical that some people that die and come back, all of a sudden they're math savants or whatever
Yes.
that word is. So we have a lot of mathematical in our world is made up of mathematical, and that's how we human beings started to figure out mathematical things. Okay, so let's step back out of that and let's look at Mother Mary a little bit. When they were talking about, I was talking about how I looked at my ancestry tree and how suicide is a very shameful thing. Like, I'm even ashamed to bring it up here because it's my personal business, but I only say it because it's for the greater good, to help people understand the way I'm understanding this. So I always think, how did that affect our family tree? That was only like, we have a lot of family curses I've found. So I look up and he's a great grandparent or whatever, and I see an apathy in some parts of my family. And what happened was, I'll tell you the story. When I read this story, because it was in the newspapers, it just blew me away. It made me so sad. When you study your family tree, get ready for an emotional roller coaster. Not only are you going to find secrets, but you're going to find tragedies, because that's human stories, or tragedies. And I suggest everyone do their ancestry, because it will help reveal parts of yourself, and it will help you to know yourself, to bring you closer to God. Because remember, we're trying to unite with God, and we all have problems of why we don't unite with God when we should. But in any case, so this story was, his wife died, which was my great grandmother, whatever, how many greats. And he was so distraught. He was a barber who came from Germany to America. Him and his wife, or he immigrated here, and I think he met his wife here, but nevertheless, they were together, and they had 2 children. And when she died, he was so distraught, he didn't care about anything, not even his own children, that he went mentally, and he was put into an institution, and he jumped out the window on Christmas morning. Okay, my gosh, the thought of that tragedy. Then these children were I don't know if they were adopted, I forget how it went, but the weirdest part is, I got to speak to one of them in a thing, and we talked about the story, and she seemed to come from a nice family and all. So evidently, as our great came, we had somewhat healing of that suicide. So anyway, so when they talked about Mary here, and about her being delayed 100 years here, who would have known that was possible? Like, but God has been arranging our universe from eternity, and he's been slowly, and remember, he has to work with humans having their own human will. So I've just found this so fascinating to hear that it made a difference. And you sent me something, so it has to do with, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you can look at that later. Yeah.
Okay. So I just had to say that. So, okay, so these 4 mysteries. So one was he would come in the 7th age, which I believe has to do with the covenants. And then another was the family which she should belong, which I wanted to say that about the ancestry thing. And then he also saw one shore of the sea, a low spreading tree, and on the other, a very lofty one whose summit drooped over the lower one. I don't know what that's about, but I love trees and all, so it makes me curious about it. So I'd want to look into that. So I saw now that we're done the Saint Joseph consecration, we can look a little deeper in this, which I really can appreciate it more. I saw the cloud break up and fall. Okay, it wasn't that. Okay. Oh, and then certain pious people who were in prayer. Yeah, what were you going to say?
That he saw 4, right? Was it 4 visions he saw?
4, yeah, but I don't
4 visions pertaining to Mary.
Mary, which was
But okay, but Elijah apparently, he also saw 4 visions. And his visions,
Was it to do with Mary?
no, but he also saw the 4 visions. He also saw 4 visions where we're like wind, the wind, when the wind, and then there was another time, another time, another time. So I just thought that was curious, the 4.
Yeah,
that he
we'll have to
saw
look
more
into
that
that.
he saw.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. So I thought it was here that certain pious people who were in prayer. See, that's the thing is it tells us how we have to work on our holiness every day. So I thought of that.
Yeah, and yesterday in the movie that we saw, oh my gosh, Alcanzando el cielo, looking to heaven, I think is the English translation.
And I watched what he said at the end, and I forgot to tape anything.
Oh, it was so no, the second movie, the one that you didn't go to. Oh my gosh, it was
I'm
so
sorry.
good because most of the time, that's what he was. He was always in prayer. Jose Sanchez was the same. He was like they're so
What's the
young.
name of the movie again?
Mirando al cielo,
What does that mean?
reaching the sky or looking up to the heavens or something like that. They
Remember
did
the bow?
translation.
Remember the arrow, the bow?
Yes.
The bow
Yes.
up to the sky, the arrow
Yeah.
points to the sky.
And he was always in prayer, and he went to war, but when he went to war, he didn't carry a gun. He says, "This is my weapon." He went to war for the church. It's a
I
true
read
story.
that.
And he carried his rosary with him.
His weapon, like pious, like
Yes.
yeah.
And then he was put in jail and stuff, and people wanted to get him out. They wanted to get him out because his godfather was the one with the government against priests and against the Catholic, the any kind of Catholic religion, I believe it was. And so he's like, okay, all you have to do is say that you're not doing the Jesus thing anymore. You're going to be with the government. That's all you have to do. And you can go back home. I'm not going to punish you for it. He didn't want to. He's like, no, I can't say that. I can't denounce my Lord.
Right.
And so, it was just so amazing.
I hope it comes on form.
He was praying the whole time. And they made it kind of a little lengthy, the whole part where he was going to be put to death and stuff. But the parallels of what happened to him and what happened to Jesus.
The name of that so I can keep an eye out for when
it's so good. Yeah. Anyway, I will. Okay. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it.
But we need to talk about our Catholic movies, so I'm glad you did.
Yes.
Okay, so Elias, I wanted to go, but I took a nap when you guys were doing that. I was sleeping. Anyway, I can't do too much, like you can. You have much
But
more.
Tuesdays, it's half off at the theaters, guys.
What?
Tuesdays is half off at the theaters if you guys ever want to go, but it's
start a movie club. We need to put that on. I'm gonna put that on. Okay, let's focus.
Okay. Sorry.
Soon after this vision, Elijah's enlarged in a cave. He was accustomed to pray. Remember, Jesus was born in a cave, and he died and they put him in a cave. He made new regulations for the prophet children, of whom the time that cave constantly supplicated for the coming of Mary and honored her advent. Like, wow. Okay, so then Elijah's had his prayer called up by the clouds. Remember when we did our rosary, we would see our prayers going up and in these orbs of the rosary. My rosary is too far for me to reach. Anyway, each Hail Mary is an orb, just like the rosary beads going up to the sky. And we have when Jeanette and I did the spiritual warfare every day, we had a picture done by someone on Fiverr, and I told them my concept, and they put this together, and we had the angels carrying the rosary up. But in any case, I had that vision, just a creative vision, nothing spiritual, but I had that vision of it going up, and then I don't know if it was related to me seeing and near-death experiences, because I watch a lot of them because I want to know what it's like over there on the other side. So here they said that mother's prayers, I'm seeing an orb go up. They said mother's prayers are like a beam of light that is so big compared to regular prayers. So when a mother prays for her child, apparently it's much more, because there's more emotion behind it. I don't know. So I think that the more we pray our rosary, the bigger the orbs get to go up to. So when they said this right here, when he said that his prayer was taken up, was called up the clouds, that's what I saw. It was like, wow, like those beams. So anyway, that occurred to me. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, then she went into John, baptized at a later period, the spot of the pool. What time is it? You have to go in 15 minutes. Okay. So I was just thinking of the baptism at that time. Mary's here it is. I received, excuse me, I received the clear assurance that without this dew, because when they were talking about the manna, it kind of grossed me out. And I'm thinking, I'm used to going to a supermarket and getting my food. To eat manna off the ground, it just kind of was like, ugh, I don't know. It always was like, ugh. But when you're hungry, I guess you're going to eat whatever. So, but anyway, so when it said, I received that clear assurance that without this dew, about dew made the difference. It tells you that old saying that if you drop something in a puddle and the ripples, that's every word we say. I don't know if it was a priest that said this. Every word we say, like the Bible says, you can't take it back. And every word we say, especially in anger, is damaging, and you can't take it back, like as if you rip a pillow and all the feathers come out. You could not find all of those feathers. So when I read this here, I was thinking about the ripples of every word we say, of every action we take, makes a difference. So much so that it can affect weather. Now we know that the devil can also affect weather, that he has dominion over weather, which is why you should not drive when it's raining, and if you can avoid it, you want to be careful, and lightning and all that. So anyway, so that's what occurred to me when we went here. And then it says Mary's advent would have been delayed 100 years longer. That blew me away. Jeanette, I hope you're coming back, because I want us to tie this up together. Let me see if there was anything else. The great mercy of God, the pious heathens of the age knew that the Messiah would be born of a virgin of Judea. And all of this was just so, it just gave me, the images just were like, wow. So some of the stuff I couldn't quite follow. But, I thought I want to look a little clearer, because this book is so big that you miss so many details. And I'm glad that we're only doing this now, because we can look at these details, and it can make us learn the Bible a little bit. If anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like today, for me, it woke me up with Tobias and the difference in the books, and then also Elias, and Elias is not Elijah. There's Elias, there's Elijah, and there's Elias, Elijah, and Elisha. I think there's three.
Yeah, that was the other confusing part. Yeah, we have to look at that. We have to look
Elisha, Elijah, and Elisha. Elias, Elisha, and Elisha.
Let's look at those three.
I have a feeling that Elias and because Elisha was Elijah's protege. Elias is someone else. I gotta look up who Elias is.
That's what I'm saying. I think it is Elisha. So,
okay, maybe because they said that the name Elijah is also considered Elisa.
I know, it's so confusing.
Elias, because Elijah and Elias could be the same one.
So
we gotta look that up.
Let's look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have time now, because you have to go in 10 minutes. So anyway, anything more that, oh, the virgin's headdress like that. Look what
Oh
they
yeah, beautiful.
look what they were talking about here. But they said it was half woman, half lion, and that freaks me out a little. So
Well, if you look in Revelation, in the book of Revelation, and how the angels have all these different heads and
that's the only
their
reason I was
creatures.
okay with it. Yeah.
So also what I didn't like, I have to say, I didn't like that they made an idol of Mary after he
Well,
said
that's
that without really knowing anything.
But that's
know,
what I
so-
was going to say.
Yeah.
I think that it was a foreknowledge for them. So I don't think it was something that we should think, because at first I was like, oh, that sounds not right. Just like you just said.
Because then they were doing worship on her, and I'm thinking these people don't even know.
Right.
I don't know if Aaliyah said anything about. Maybe we'll know later.
No, yeah, maybe. But no, but think about this. It's almost like they were given a foreknowledge to she was coming, and they could feel
Yes.
the power of her. So
Yeah,
that
that's
was
why
what-
it was like, okay, maybe I'm just getting the
Yeah.
wrong interpretation here.
No, but I felt the same way you did. I was like a little bit, so that's the thing about these images. Sometimes they're a little confusing, and then we have to then figure them out and try to look at them.
Yes.
Good.
And that's what makes it so interesting and fun.
That's what makes it fun and interesting. Right. It's a mystery. We love mysteries. And instead of watching mysteries like I love all the crime mysteries, that's all negative. This is something beautiful and positive. So
Yes.
it's, you know what I mean? I'd rather spend my time. Okay. So then we got down here, and he saw much history of Tobias and the marriage of the angel of the young Tobias and Sarah. So and look at this. Look at how it's related to Saint Anne and Mary. And I'm always like, well, why did they include this in the Bible? This is just some person's story. Look at how that's related, Jeanette. The latter type of Saint Anne, the old Tobias, represented the race of pious Jews that yearned after the Messiah. So even though it's not saying that I think it does. It says his blindness signified he was the father of 2 more children. See, I think it is saying that they were actually her ancestors before, because look what it says.
So they were Mary's ancestors.
Right. That's kind of what I'm getting here. His quarrelsome wife, an image in the vain. Okay, no, the swallow, a messenger of spring, Tobias's blindness. Okay, where was it? The angel had indeed spoken truly when he said that he was Azarias, the son of Ananias. For the word signifies this angel was a guide of the races, the protector, administrator of blessing, even unto the conception of blessed virgin. So it says, in the prayer offered together, young Tobias and Sarah, which carried angels to the throne of God, were favorably received. And it says, I recognize the supplications of pious Israelites and the daughters of Sion coming of the Savior, and the simultaneous prayers of Joachim and Anne for the child promised to them. The blindness of Tobias reproaches his wife, signifies contempt shown to Joachim. And look at that.
Wow.
This is why you don't want people around you that are vindictive, vicious, and think negative thoughts, because they bring a lot of demons. They were bringing demons around Joachim, who they were showing contempt. You don't want anyone in your life that is showing you contempt, or your children. Like, somehow you got to remove them from your life in some way. Anyway, so when we got to this, I saw that possibly she's intimating, but she's not directly saying it, that these might have been prior ancestors of Saint Anne, but she doesn't say it specifically, but kind of. So I found that fascinating. I just found that fascinating. And then listen to this. Maybe the negative ones, because look at what she says here. Such impious taunts drove the pious still more earnest to prayer. That's what you do when you're around people that are wishing you evil, and pray for them. it was also, and very particularly, a symbol of the scorn that Anne endured from her maid. So maybe those ancestors were ancestors of the maid. You see how the ripples of time and generations affect the people? Because if you notice, when we watch the Outlander, and if you notice, people that are around the family stay around families. And if you notice in some of the stories of the Bible, we're seeing that it's a much smaller world than like today. And certain souls travel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, certain souls travel together. Like, I think our souls, Jeanette, were meant to come together. Look how much we've developed our movie club. We've developed these, we met because we met with our teacher, who is Nathalie, who has become our good friend.
Yes. And we
to
hold each other accountable, and
And
we
we help
study
each
the
other.
Bible together, and we pray together, and
Yes.
we
I
are
think
today's
our
disciples, guys. We are all today's disciples.
And Amy said to me as we're walking out, I know she won't mind me saying this, that she's so glad, I think she said Wisconsin, that she found this group. And I said, yep, and you're in now for good. I said, once Jeanette starts something, you're in it. And so with you and Nathalie both being Hispanic, I find Hispanic people are very warm. It's hard for me to warm up to people. I'm generally very standoffish, but you give me a sense of warmth and comfort around me that I feel more comfortable. Because what does Natalie say? You've come out so much since we met you. Now, don't forget, I was getting over my mother's death, but nevertheless, your Hispanic warmth has helped me to come out more of my little shell I built. So anyway, so if you're in grief, just understand it's normal to build a shell, but it's good to get yourself out there, which I'm trying to tell my friend Lynn, which is hard for her because all she does is cry. And, it's only been 5 months. Her daughter was killed in a tragic accident that, a young girl, 22. But anyway, but she's not lost her faith in God. So anyway, so I thought of the ripples of how our group, and when I thought of this maid, and we travel with certain souls in our life and that come into our life. So I just thought it was interesting. And then we got here, let's see, it was stolen. Tobias knew the people. Okay, the Assyrians. Okay, so here are the Assyrians. Remember, Anne's family, they were Assyrians.
Yes. And we just learned that. We didn't know that.
We didn't know
just
that.
learned that a couple days ago.
Right.
So guys, if you didn't see the ones before this one,
and
the one before this one talks about Anne, which is Mary's mother.
Assyrians. You might come from people that are Assyrians. You don't know, you could be part of Mary.
Yeah.
What I love is my daughter has 50% Jewish. You have to go in, minutes. Hold on. Just this real quick. She has Jewish DNA. And she has Ashkenazi, which is supposedly the elite and the smart. So I wonder, was my daughter related to Jesus? Like, it gets me like, because I'm always trying to get her to study the Bible. But anyway, so you might be related to them. So I thought of that when I got here to the Assyrians, that these people might have been Anne's family. So that was the last page. And tomorrow, guys, it's symbolical vision. And you know me with the symbols. So
that's going to be very interesting.
Yes. So today's reading was amazing. So you enjoy your appointment or wherever you're.
Yeah, it's my doctor's. I have a doctor's appointment. So
well, enjoy your doctor's appointment, but hopefully it's good. And you see,
I just gotta be with me. That's all.
But you see, Coral and Brown are good colors for your coloring, by the way. Just so
really? Oh, okay. Yes. Well, this is still from last night, guys. I slept in it, and I'm just gonna wear it one more day.
That's okay. You're only going to your doctor. Anyway. But
I showered before, so we're good.
Coral and Brown look good on you. All right, people, we love you. We hope you're enjoying this as much as we are. Come back if you are. Bye.